Butler, Councillor Barney and Councillor Murray.
Thank you. And from the officers, I have in the room Rebecca Sells, Principal Solicitor on my right. As I say, Tracy Cooper, Laura Webb from Democratic Services. Planning officers, Emily Dodd, my extreme right, and Matt Hilton to my right, who will be presenting the one and only item on the agenda later today. No fire alarm is expected this afternoon, but if it does sound, then those of you who know the procedure, it's into the far corner of the car park. Those of you who don't and are a little nervous, well, follow us would be my best advice. Could I remind you about the phones, mobile phones off or to silent, please? It can be easy to forget those and can be somewhat of a distraction. We've done item 1 on the agenda. As I say, apologies for absence and subs. So really, the next item is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 29th of July this year. Our members of the committee agreed, those of you who are here, that these minutes are correct, and if so, is there a proposer and a seconder, please? Proposed Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Mason. Thank you. That takes us swiftly on to the agenda item, the report. But firstly, I might just remind members and some of you who haven't been here recently, if you could try not to repeat the same points that's already been made, that's appreciated, and keep it quite concise and relevant to the debate. It is a quasi-judicial meeting and should be conducted with the appropriate professionalism and behaviour. I know that you will, and only material planning issues should really be debated on this report. So we note now the report of the Director of Growth and Economic Development, which gives an overview of the planning process today and the application which is to be considered this afternoon, and also the results of some appeals at the end of the process. So, the first application is application 21/01402/full, 17 Alford Road, West Bridgford. Ground and first floor extensions to the rear, including the rear dormer with Juliet balcony. If I could pass over now to Mr. Hilton to read out any late representations. I know there are one, and then take us through the report. Thank you, Mr. Hilton.
Apologies, Chair. Can I just check there were no declarations of interest? Or did I miss that bit?
My apologies.
Thank you.
Sorry, I missed that. Are there any declarations of apologies from members? No. Thank you for reminding.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have 2 late representations which should have been circulated amongst members. The first representation is an additional objection from the neighbour, providing some additional points that they wish to raise. Second late representation relates to a proposed amendment to condition 4 of the application, should members be minded to accept the officer recommendation. Essentially seeking to amend condition 4 to clarify that the planters, the roof garden is not to be, the planters shown on the plan do not form part of the application. The area in front of the Juliet balcony is not to be used as a roof garden. So moving on to application. So application before you is for ground and first floor rear extensions, including a dormer balcony with Juliet balcony. The application relates to a 2-storey detached dwelling. There is a 2-storey side projection, to the rear of which there is a single-storey projection with a balcony, and then there is a single-storey rear extension. I'm just going to take through some photos of the site. So this is the view of the rear of the application property. So as you can see, there's the existing balcony on the right-hand side there, and the single-storey rear extension. Essentially, the 2-storey part of the proposal would extend over that balcony that you can see. This is a view across to number 15. So you can see the neighbouring single-storey rear extension, which is positioned on the boundary with a blank side wall, and then again another view of the across to the neighbouring property. This is the path separating the application property from that neighbour, and then this is just a view across to the other neighbour at number 19, and then it's a view out to from the back garden towards the neighbours at the rear. This is the view from the neighbour at number 15 looking towards the application property. So as you can see the single-storey rear extension there. Again, another view across from the neighbour to the back of the application property. And again, this is the view from the neighbour on the opposite side at number 19, facing towards the proposed extension. The single-storey extension that you can see there is to be retained, so essentially the proposed extension will be set behind that. So just moving on to the application plans, the block plan here shows that the proposed extensions will be set off the boundary of number 15 by approximately a metre, and it would also project approximately a metre beyond the rear of the existing extension to number 15. So we've got the existing plans here. Again, you can see it showing the existing balcony that's going to be extended over. So elevation plan of the proposed extensions. So the main two-storey element, say, would just extend over the existing balcony. Then we've got a single-storey projection that extends out 1.9 metres with a dormer above. Like I said, there's a Juliet balcony, fixed balustrade. And then this is just the first floor plan. You can see the planters here that I was referring to, which don't actually form part of the application. Just to clarify, that won't be accessible. There is a fixed balustrade to prevent access onto that roof area. If planning permission were to be granted, we would seek to prevent access by way of condition as well. And then there's a roof plan, so there is also a loft conversion space as well. And then just to bring to members' attention that there was a previous approval in 2014 for a similar scheme that it has lapsed and has not been implemented. The previous scheme proposed a rear window rather than Juliet balcony. So the main change is obviously the Juliet balcony and the cutaway section of the roof, but otherwise the overall scale and massing of it is the same as the 2014 application. So if we just go back to the site photos. So in terms of the relationship with the neighbour at number 15, the proposed extensions, like I say, would extend approximately a metre beyond the rear of their rear extension. Given the modest projection beyond this neighbouring extension and the metre separation distance as well, it's not officers of the view that there wouldn't be a significant overbearing or overshadowing impact on this neighbour or significant loss of light to their rear windows. In terms of privacy, originally submitted plans proposed a walk-on balcony with screens to either side. So to go back to application plans again. So on the original set of plans, there would have been a 1.7 metre high screen to either side of this dormer, a walk-on area. Discussions took place with the applicant and the plans were amended to omit the side screens and to make it into a fixed balustrade to prevent the use of that. In light of that, it's not considered there will be an undue loss of privacy to the neighbouring properties, and it's viewed that the Juliet balcony would be treated in a similar way to a standard window in terms of overlooking. So in terms of the impact on number 19 on the opposite side, the extension, like I say, would be set behind this existing single-storey extension, which would actually project out further than the proposal. This setback would be approximately 3.7 metres from the boundary, and then this neighbouring property is also set back from the boundary. So for that reason, it's not considered to be an undue, or officer's view, there wouldn't be an undue overbearing impact on this neighbour, or overshadowing impact on this neighbour. I'm just going to run through some more dimensions. So in terms of the separation distance between the proposed extension and number 19, there would be a separation of approximately 7.7 metres from this neighbouring property, from the side kitchen window of this neighbouring property. The projecting dormer would be set back approximately 9 metres from the side-facing windows of number 19. In terms of relationship with the properties at the rear, there is a significant rear garden separation of approximately 44 metres from the properties at the rear, and for that reason it's not considered that the Juliet balcony would result in a significant direct overlooking of the rear neighbours. So for the reasons set out before you, the application is before you with a recommendation to grant planning permission, subject to conditions, including the amended condition 4 as detailed in the late representations. Okay, that's great.
Thank you. Well, we had 3 speakers, but we're down to 2 speakers and a written comment from the ward councillor. So, if I may, could I ask speaker number 1? I think it's Mr. Graham Pedler, to come to the table. Mr. Pedler, you have up to 5 minutes to speak. When you're ready to start, if you could press the microphone button and the red light will come on, and from that point in time we'll start the clock running and we'll let you know when you've 30 seconds left. So, yeah, well, in your own time, 5 minutes is a reasonable time for you.
Okay, we ready?
Yes?
Okay, as the planning department have noted, planning permission was previously granted in 2014, highlighting that a Juliet balcony rather than a standard window is the only change from the past application. I would like to point out this proposal was also passed in 2008, again the same size with minor differences to the windows and position of the dormer from the 2 future applications. No objections were received for these parts of the applications in 2008 or 2014. Regarding the objections received by a cohort of neighbours who at their own meetings were also upset by planning being granted for a larger extension than our proposal at 11 Alfred Road. Design and materials. We have objections that the extension is not in keeping or retaining the character of existing buildings. The extension is using matching materials. The proposal squares off the area, leaving the angle of the existing sun lounge projecting beyond the front, and the new roofing is lower than the main roof of the existing house. It is very much designed to be in keeping and in fact vastly improves the appearance of the rear of the house. Balcony issue. I would point out that 17 Alfred Road already has a much larger balcony without screening to the side that is removed with the new extension. The current balcony gives us a clear view of the majority of number 15's garden. For a compromise, we have removed the small balcony with privacy screens on a revised set of drawings, even though we already have a balcony in situ. The redesign has also been objected to. The architect was instructed to change the drawing to a Juliet balcony, no other agenda in mind. The architect has since provided more information and a picture of what the Juliet may appear similar to once installed. The view from here is no different to having a window in place as highlighted by the planning officer. Related to the doors significantly add to the massing of the dormer. The design is the same size as that of 2014. The architect has modified the drawings only to include inward opening doors. Privacy. The new design increases the privacy from our existing first floor because of the removal of the existing large balcony that gives a clear view of the garden at number 15. Dr. Kumar from number 19 statement that we will not have any privacy in our garden, as we can be seen from their first floor extension and balcony, is wrong and misinformed. We currently overlook Dr. Kumar's garden both from a rear bedroom window and a bathroom window. The new design removes the bathroom window and hence reduces overlooking into Dr. Kumar's garden. Evergreen foliage on both sides will prevent a view from the location of the new bedroom glazing. Daylight and sunlight. Dr. Kumar, number 19, has also stated that the extension will obstruct daylight and sunlight from southwest, especially in the evenings. This is not at all possible for a number of reasons. The first is that this side of Alfred Road faces northeast and Dr. Kumar's garden is sun side of ours, meaning none of our building has any effect on the sun into number 19 during the day. Sunlight late afternoon into 19's garden will be unchanged from at present because of the height of the existing roof of our property is taller than the proposed extension's roof. Mr Sweeney's objection refers to the side profile of the proposal being akin to a pitched roof full brick height extension. I would point out that all but 4 foot 5 inches of the proposal's projection faces the walls with no windows of 15 Alfred Road. Only a small part of the dormer cuts out any skyline looking into our garden from his side, as the current view consists of the sun lounge, rear of our house and the side rear of number 19 Alfred Road. In fact, most of the view of the proposal from 15 would be restricted by a large apple tree. I have also purchased a sun tracking app which proves there is little if any impact on the sunlight into number 15. It is not possible for the proposal to overshadow 15 Alfred Road as the dormer is set too far away from the roof lights at number 15. Massing and scale. The massing and scale and over-intensive and overbearing are not comments my wife and I agree with at all, and Rushcliffe Borough Council did not either on 2 previous occasions. Views. Another part of Mrs Watts from number 13's objection from the rear of our own property will obscure the clear view up and down the road. This is an improbable view, as in my own garden I have the large apple tree and the sun lounge and a large bamboo for privacy that will prevent any view down the road from the garden of number 13. Dr Kumar mentions in his response that his view from their kitchen window is a great big wall after the proposed extension. The view at the moment, as seen from the pictures, if they want to look up and across the properties, is also of the walls and roof of our house and number 15. The objection is a moot point. Property value. Dr Kumar has also concerns about his property value. Generally, if average property values increase through improvements, thereby increasing the desirability of the neighbourhood, the opposite is likely to be true, though the likely answer is that the extension would have zero impact on the value of number 19. In conclusion, we have presented our reasoning behind the plans for 17 Alfred Road with a firm belief in their appropriateness in terms of design and impact. Councillor Gowland and Councillor Bushman appear to have been strongly petitioned to raise their objections.
That's time.
Is it? Okay.
5 minutes ago.
Nearly. There's about 10 seconds left.
But thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
We'll just sanitise the desk before we hear a second speaker. Our second speaker is Mr Paul Sweeney, objecting. Mr Sweeney, in your own time, please come to the table. You've got 5 minutes. Time starts, well, when we start the press it on then. You can sit down if you want, or you can stand. It doesn't matter either way.
We are.
You're on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Committee. My concerns regarding this application have been laid out concisely and objectively in my letter to Mr Pegram, dated the 1st of June 2021, regarding the original application, and an email to Matt Hilton, dated 9th of August 21, regarding the amended application, circulated as a late submission. I would ask the committee members to familiarise themselves with these documents if they have not already. It is appropriate to cover the history of this application to help understand how we arrived at today's position. Back in 2003, I was visited by Councillor Smith, who had seen an application for 17 Alfred Road that proposed a large first-storey extension to the rear of the property. At this time, I had not seen the plans, but he advised me that both he and the other ward councillor would be objecting to it on the grounds that it was over-intensive and overshadowing. I agreed with them and submitted my objection. An amended plan with a sloping roof and dormer window was submitted, but this was also rejected for the same reasons. Finally, a mutually agreed plan was passed which consisted of a sloping roof extension with a Velux window. It is important to note that at this point in time, both the planners and the ward councillors took the view that an extension at first floor level with a dormer to the rear of the property was unreasonable. Since that time, there have been a further 3 planning applications lodged by number 17 Alfred Road in 2008, 2014, 2021, each which has progressively increased the massing and profile of proposed works, along with the distance back from the rear wall, to the point that we are looking at something very similar to the original rejected proposals, albeit now with the addition of an elevated balcony. This assessment of the situation is shared by the Planning Department, and I would like to draw the committee's attention to paragraph 14G of the committee report in this respect. In summary, it is my belief, and that of 2 other neighbours and both ward councillors, that the application being considered today by the committee is just as unreasonable now as it was back in 2003. So that's the history. With regard to the application considered by the committee today, I've always been consistent in my application, in my objection, which arises from the first 4 elements of the application, which protrudes a full 4.9 metres beyond existing rear wall, taking it 3 metres past the rear of my property to the full height of the gutter line. I believe that Matt said, I think it was 1 metre, but if you look at paragraph 21 of the report, it does state 3 at first floor level. I wish to point out to the committee that such an extension so far back, so high up and only a metre away from my neighbouring property is unprecedented on Alford Road and in my opinion is excessive. I consider it to be over-intensive and overshadowing, and it should be borne in mind that the structure will extend at first floor level past my ground floor conservatory and will be up son of it. With regard to the proposed balcony, I've objected to this and I feel that any balcony so deep in the garden at first floor level will affect my amenity. We all enjoy sitting in our gardens in fine weather, and in the evenings we enjoy sitting at the back of the garden to enjoy the sun there. I simply do not wish to do this whilst being overlooked by or overlooking my neighbours. I'm very grateful to my neighbours, though, for amending their original plan to remove the tiled balcony cheeks that were the cause of significant additional massing. But I remain concerned about the so-called Juliet balcony that is proposed and explain my reasons in my response to the amended plans. In my opinion, the amendments to the plan are superficial and easily reversible. Essentially, the balcony is the same structure as before and manifestly not a Juliet balcony as defined in the Cambridge English Dictionary, which states a very narrow balcony with vertical metal bars fitted to the outside of a building in front of an upstairs full-length window. With this in mind, I welcome and share the planning officer's concerns over the original balcony, but would ask respectfully that the committee question his acceptance of the amended plans on the basis that it is a Juliet balcony. The other major implication of having a balcony in this roof space is that the full-height doors themselves are directly responsible for a considerable increase in the massing of the first floor dormer, which is the main contention. I wish to impress upon the committee that I'm not against my neighbours' wish to extend their property per se. I'm aware of their reasons for so doing and am indeed sympathetic to them, given the need to extend their kitchen at ground floor level and deal with a troublesome flat roof at the side of the property. My objection is born solely out of a desire to maintain a reasonable balance between their wishes and those of their neighbours. With these thoughts in mind, I appeal to the committee to agree with me, my neighbours and 2 ward councillors in our belief that the proposed plans are unreasonable. Whatever the outcome,
30 seconds.
I'd like to thank the committee for their time and respect their final decision.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
Turn this off.
Yes, please. Thank you. As I say, Councillor Gowland, one of the ward councillors, has sent her apologies, but she has asked if her written comment could be read, and I'll ask for Mrs. Sells to read that for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gowland writes, when I was first elected, I was surprised by the number of large extensions being applied for in West Bridgford and disturbed by many of the designs. Initially, I felt it wasn't my place to criticise them based on my own personal views. Since then, I've realised that most residents are unhappy about the large extensions being built and think they are out of keeping with the character of the area. This isn't always so obvious from the streets, except in terms of effective terracing in some places where the house fronts now run together, but it is changing the nature of many back gardens, with the extent of overlooking and massing being shocking in some places. We need to draw a line somewhere. I have to be honest, this particular extension is not as large as many, and the applicants have engaged with me and have responded very constructively to some requests for changes from the planners. However, this extension will still be overbearing on the neighbours, who are very upset about it. I have seen how it will block the light and view of the sky from the kitchen side window of number 19 and create considerable massing for number 15. This is obvious if you compare the revised and existing elevations. The actual increase in floor area also needs to be considered to increase the risk of surface water build-up. I'm aware that something like this was given permission in the recent past, but times change, which is exactly why planning permissions lapse after a certain period. I note that my fellow ward councillor, Councillor Bushman, has also objected to this application.
Thank you. So we've heard from 3 representations, and before I pass over to Mr. Hilton, I'd just say that in my opinion, I think we should focus on the application in front of us. We've heard this many times in this room. We are here to discuss the application in front of us, and in my opinion, not the entire streetscape of Alford Road or indeed of West Bridgford. So I'll just draw that to the committee's attention, and then I'll pass over to Mr. Hilton. I think I made a note, something about the definition of the Juliet balcony, but I think there are other issues you may want to comment on.
Thank you, Chairman. So first of all, I just wanted to respond to Mr Sweeney's points about the scale and massing of the proposal. So in terms of the reference to a 1 metre projection beyond the rear of neighbouring property, I just want to clarify that that's with reference to the ground floor of the extension. The footprint of the extension projects 1 metre beyond the neighbouring rear extension at number 15. It's correct that the first floor dormer projects approximately 3 metres beyond the first floor of number 15. But you'll note that the dormer is not the full width of the extension. It is stepped back from the boundary, and therefore it's of the officer's views that there wouldn't be a significant overbearing impact on the rear windows, the upper floor rear windows of number 15 from the massing of that dormer, particularly given the removal of the originally proposed screens that would have projected further out from the back of the property than what's in front of you. In terms of the reference to the Juliet balcony and the change from the previously proposed window, essentially there would not be an increase in the roof height of the dormer from the 2014 approval. The Juliet balcony would be cut into the roof slope to gain the additional height compared to a standard window. Just wanted to clarify that point. In terms of the discussions about whether it is or isn't a Juliet balcony, the applicant did provide, or their agent did provide, further information and a photo example of the Juliet balcony, which maybe isn't so clear on this picture because of the sort of contrast, but it would be a metal balustrade vertical upright, and quite clearly would prevent access onto the flat roof area. It's not simply just a bar running across the doors. I think it would take quite some effort to climb over that. So as it is fixed directly to the back wall, there isn't any standing space. It's felt that it would operate in the same way as just having a window. The doors would be inward opening. It wouldn't provide an opportunity to stand out beyond the rear of the dormer. So moving on to the points raised by Councillor Gowland. Obviously, each application has to be assessed on its own merit, so we can't look at the overall principle of two-storey or extensions or dormers. We have to look at each situation individually. With reference to the side kitchen window of number 19, as I covered before, although I'm aware there is a side window that faces towards the proposed extension, it would be the extension set behind the existing single-storey extension, and there is a good degree of separation, say 7.7 metres between the side window and the neighbouring extension, the proposed extension. I don't think I've got any more points to add to that. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
I think you covered it. Thank you very much. So, members, it's time for you to discuss the application and then come to a decision. So, who wants to start the debate? Councillor Bailey, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I wondered if Mr Hilton could give us some information really on a comment made by the neighbour who said the Juliet balcony, the full-length windows, will considerably increase the massing effect on the rear of the house. Could you explain that to me? What the difference would be between the glass of the Juliet windows and the original windows that would have been in the earlier application in, I think, 2014 you mentioned. My question really is the quantity of glass similar?
Okay, so it would be a larger area of glass because they are a pair of patio doors essentially, but like I sort of alluded to before, there wouldn't be an increase in the roof height to accommodate those. It is a case of them being cut into the roof slope because the previously proposed window was raised above ground level, so there isn't a physical increase in the massing of the dormer compared to that previous application, there is a massing of the glazed area. So that's the only, it's only when you view it from the back of the property that you'd see a visual change from the previous submission.
And that will be a little bit obscured by the metal balustrade.
That's correct. So that would, you'd see through the balustrade, but it would, to a degree, obscure it. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones has indicated to speak.
Thank you, Chair. It seems to me the biggest impact is likely to be on number 15, and I'm struggling with the drawings really, because the proposed northern elevation looks as if there's a first floor and then a roof that slopes away from number 15 and then goes up. But when you look at the proposed rear elevation, it looks like a flat wall. Can you throw some light on my puzzlement about that? Do you understand what I mean? On the north elevation, it looks as if there's a roof sloping away.
Yes.
Right, but on the proposed northern elevation, it looks like a flat side facing number 15.
Okay. So I think looking at this plan here, it appears that it's the shading that is maybe giving the impression that there is a different roof slope, but I am of the understanding that it is a vertical wall on that side, and then the only pitched roof is the top of the two-story extension where you've got the hipped roof sloping away. So other than that, it is a vertical wall.
So could you explain how far that vertical wall extends back against number 15's?
So the vertical wall.
Number 15 is a single story extension at the back.
Yes.
And that's a two-story.
Let's go back to the block plan. So it's extending the vertical wall. It would extend out to the extent of the current raised balcony, and then another 4.9 metres. If I go to the site photo, that might be a bit clearer actually. So from the balcony, it would be another 4.9 metres out from the back with a vertical wall, but it wouldn't be at full two-story height because of the dormer window.
So it's 4.9 metres on top of what is already there.
It's 4.9 metres out from the back of what's already there, yes, of the existing property.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I appreciate and I accept it's a large extension. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I can see that there are concerns from neighbours. I think there's always concerns from neighbours on almost any application, especially when houses are in close proximity to each other. And my initial reaction was, oh crikey, yes, the windows of the Juliet balcony overlooking next door. But then, of course, you suddenly remember, yeah, when I lived in several houses in the past where you can easily, from the first floor windows, see both next door neighbours' gardens. So, in actual fact, that's quite a usual circumstance. And I don't think this is a particularly unusual circumstance at all. I didn't hear anything from the ward member that related specifically to this application that actually provided any evidence backing up the objection, other than she mentioned overbearing and the direction of light onto number 19. And I'm looking at the overview, street view overview of the 15, 17 and 19. And it is almost, Alford Road is almost north-south, but it's probably, was it north-northwest to south-southeast. So it's at a slight angle from the north-south direction. So this extension, as far as I can see, given the fact that it has a sloping roof anyway, I would think that there may, and I would say it's a moot point, because I would say probably in the winter, not in the summer, but in the winter, maybe the setting sun might disappear below the roof line in the west. But I really cannot see that there's any major obstruction to the sunlight. It might be a fraction, but I really cannot see the evidence from what I'm looking at on the overview and from the drawings that there is any major blockage of sunlight. The vertical wall at number 15 and the rear extension, which has got that slight sloping roof, that's sheer brick wall, so there's no habitable rooms there that are going to be impacted upon. So all in all, Chairman, I can't see that there is a sustainable objection. I fully appreciate, and I'm sure we're all guilty of using the phrase at some time or another, I don't like it, and perhaps the neighbours could be forgiven for saying, well, I don't like it because it's a change, it's something different. But in pure planning terms, I can't see that there's any sustainable objection to it. So I'll move the recommendation as set out with that amended provision that the Juliet balcony remains a fixed balustrade and you can't start having parties or anything else on the balcony. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. So Councillor Clark's moved the recommendation of the report. Is there a proposer, seconder? 2 seconds, I'll go for Councillor Gray. Councillor Gray seconded it. So is there any other debate at all, or shall we move to the vote? It's looking as if we want to go to the vote. Go to the vote then, if I could ask for the vote. Mrs Sells.
Thank you, Chair. So all those in favour of officer recommendation with the amended condition 4? Thank you. And all those against? Thank you. So that's 10 for, 1 against, so the motion carries.
Thank you. 10 for the recommendation carried. Thank you. It takes us to the final item on the agenda, which is the results of some appeals that are really information for you, unless you've got any significant query on them. They are usually just information items. Anybody? No? Right, well, thank you. I think it comes to me to thank you and conclude this afternoon's meeting. So thank you very much and safe journey home.